Hello guys, welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will be learning about programming paradigms. Programming paradigm means the style of coding, what style we adopt to code, that we will see in deep in this session. Programming paradigms, so which means style of coding, and then we will see how to write our first program. I think yesterday we have seen only the basics of how computer works, what is program, what is operating system, what is a compiler and interpreter difference, and what is the difference between low level and high level languages. These concepts only we have seen so far. So still we are not into writing programs. So today we will start writing a program, basic kind of program, and we will see the structure of a C programming code snippet. Then we will see about data types, variables, operators, and conditional statements. So guys, whoever is seeing this video, I just recommend you to go back to the previous video, see the complete video, and then come to this video. That might cover only the basic concepts, but one or two concepts might be very new to you, and once you see that video only, you'll be able to catch up with the flow of my lectures. Okay, fine, because I might use certain terminologies from the previous videos, so it will be better if you just watch the previous video and come back to this video, right? Fine. So we will start with first of all, programming paradigms. We have several I told you that programming paradigm means style of coding, the way how you code. Okay, so initially what we will do is that let us start with programming paradigms. So if you see about programming paradigms, we have certain types of programming paradigms. First of all, I'll just list out what is a type of programming paradigms, and then we will get into each and every type of programming paradigms. Okay, so very first programming paradigm is monolithic programming. So the very first one is monolithic programming. You might wonder why we are looking at these types of programming paradigms now itself. Before starting, you should know this. Okay, so you should know what are all the programming paradigms available, what is the style of coding available, which style of coding you should choose, which will be better. So when you go later, when you just place in a big company, product company, and when you are working as a software developer, you should know what style of coding you should practice now itself. The style of coding has to be a habit, so you should cultivate the habit of maintaining a standard style of coding. So you should know what is the type of standard coding available, style of coding available, and you should choose the best among it, and you have to make it a habit. Whenever you code, you should follow that particular programming paradigm. So first one is monolithic programming. The second one is modular, or otherwise called as procedural programming, and the third one is called as object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. So these are the three major types of styles of coding available, and we will see each and every algorithm paradigm, or not algorithm paradigm, we will see each and every programming paradigm. The very first kind of programming paradigm is monolithic. What do you mean by monolithic? For example, I have not shown you the skeleton of any programming language, but let me write a very simple kind of thing. Let me write, that is something called as main. Okay, this is like a manager, and inside this manager, let me consider that there are certain lines of code, some lines of code. So randomly there are a lot of lines of code available. Let me consider that a lot of available codes are there in it. So what I will tell you is that what is a monolithic code means, you have only a single body, and inside the single body, if you write all the instruction that is required to perform a particular procedure, then this kind of coding is called as monolithic. What is monolithic? Monolithic will be having only one body. It will be having only one body, and entire logic, the entire procedure is written inside only one body. When only one inside one body the entire code is written, the entire procedure is written. If it is small, then it is fine. But when it is a very big lines, big procedures, large number of instructions provided, then it becomes very difficult. So how many people can manage this? Only one people can manage. You cannot split the work and you cannot assign it to different people, and you cannot, different people cannot work at the same time because only one body is available. So only one programmer can be using this, can manage this kind of code. So what is a monolithic code? Monolithic code means only one body will be there. Inside that say body, all the instructions are given inside this single body itself. Such kind of code is called as monolithic code. In this kind of code only one programmer can be assigned. Okay, fine. We will just come to the next algorithm paradigm. What is the next algorithm paradigm? It is modular or procedural. Okay, so what is modular or procedural? For example, let me tell you one thing. In an IT company or any organization, there is a manager, and under a manager 10 employees, or for example 3 employees are working. So for the manager, his higher authority is assigning some work. For a manager, his higher authority is assigning some work. So when the higher authority is assigning the manager with some work, that work is a very big, it's a very large task. When the task given by the higher official is very large, a manager knows very well that he independently will not be, he solely will not be able to finish that task. So what he did is that he will split the work to his 3 employees. So manager will not do any work, he will only assist them, and the 3 employees will do the work. So what I will tell you is that a task is given, task 1 is given. So task 1 is given to the manager. Task 1 is given to the manager by his higher official. And now what happens is, since manager will not do any work, what he does, he split this task into 3 subtasks. So subtask 1, and next one is subtask 2 and subtask 3. So what happens, work is given to a work is given by the higher official to his manager, and manager will not do any work. So he's splitting this single task into 3 subtasks, and he's assigning these 3 subtasks to his 3 employees. So subtask 1 is assigned to employee 1, and then your subtask 2 is assigned to employee 2, and your subtask 3 is assigned to your employee 3. Fine. Now what is the work of the manager? The work of the manager is to just assist them. The work of the manager is to just assist them. So manager will not do any work, he will not do any task, he will only assist his 3 employees, and his 3 employees will do the task. So now what we are going to do is that, let me write a simple structure of it. So what we will do is that function 1, some lines of code inside this. So this is subtask 1, and the subtask 1 is carried out by employee 1. Then comes the next subtask. What is the next subtask? Subtask 2. So function 2. So this subtask 2 is carried out by employee 2. And now we have subtask 3. So the subtask 3, function 3, is performed by employee 3. So after this, what happens? There is a manager. What is the manager is called as main, and inside this, what this manager is going to do, main is going to control, he is going to assist his 3 employees. So main will not do any work, it will assist only its 3 function. So what function main is going to do? Main will just assist it, and it will use the 3 subtask details. So it will call function 1, then it will call function 2, and it will call function 3. I think, hope you understand by what is procedural or what is modular code now. So I told you that there is a manager and his higher official is assigning a work to the manager, and the manager will not do any work. So he's splitting the task into three subtasks and he's assigning the three subtasks to three employees. And now what is the work of the manager? The work of the manager is to just simply assist his three employees. And now for the first employee, he is writing the subtask first one function. The employee 2 is writing the second function, subtask 2. And the employee 3 is writing the third subtask 3. And what manager is doing? Manager is assisting his three employees. Now tell me what is the difference between a monolithic and a modular code? Monolithic is having only one body, but here we are not having one body, you are having multiple body. You are having multiple body based on the subtask, based on the length of the task, for example. And when there are totally three subtasks available here, how many employees can be used? Not only one programmer, three programmer, or multiple programmers can be used. Multiple programmer can be used based on the length of the task. So I think comparing monolithic, I think modular or procedural code is a very better way of coding. So we should never ever write a monolithic code. We will have to look for a modular or procedural code. And what is the third type of coding? Third type of coding is object oriented programming, whereas C will not support object oriented programming, but there is one way of attaining it. There is one way of indirectly attaining object oriented programming that I'll just simply that we will see later. We are not going to see it now because you need to know exactly about what is functions here. Now I'm not teaching about your function, just I'm simply giving you, so that I will teach you later about the functions in the upcoming lectures. So if you want to know about object oriented programming, what you need, see the difference between modular, procedural and object oriented programming is very less only. Okay, so that we will see later, because you need to know very well about structure and functions very well, then only I will be able to tell you what is object oriented programming. But comparing monolithic, modular or procedural is better, and comparing modular or procedure, object oriented programming is going to be better than that, but object oriented programming is not there in C. So according to C, what is the best way approach of writing a code? Modular or procedural is the best way of approaching a code. Okay, so keep this in mind. Whenever you want to write a program, you write a modular or procedural code, don't write a monolithic code. Okay, so keep in mind about this. Okay, so hope we can go to next topic. The next topic is going to be your first program. So we will be now writing our first program, and we will be seeing the structure of a source code. Okay, so let me take a new document, and let me write first program, or let me write hello world, because see, every time when we try a first program in any programming language or any technology, we go with this word called hello world. So let me save hello world.c. The name of the file is hello world.c. So first thing that I will be doing is #include stdio.h followed by int main. So now you might wonder what these are. Okay, first of all, let us see this about later, but we will first of all finish with #include stdio.h. What is stdio.h? Stdio.h means it is a library. It's a library. What is a library? Library means it's a collection of procedures. Certain procedures are written inside this, and using that procedure we will be doing certain actions here. For example, we will see. For example, I want to just simply display a message called hello world to the user. So I will use a function called printf. And this printf, what it is going to do is inside a double quote. So whenever I want to display a message, and that message should definitely is called a string. Okay, terminology wise it is called a string, and always the strings must be enclosed within a double quote. It should be delimited inside a double quote. So what I need to do, I should print hello world. So inside double quote, I'm writing hello world, and finally I'm giving a semicolon. What the semicolon is indicating? Semicolon is indicating that this is the end of the statement. So printf hello world is a statement. So we are used by using a semicolon. What we are doing? We are determining the end of the statement. Now, what does printf is going to do? Printf is going to display a message called hello world. Okay, it is going to display a message called hello world. And how it is displaying it? Who is defining the work of printf? How it is printing hello world? The working of printf is defined inside this library. So what is this library for? We use certain statements, and the behavior of the statements are written inside this library. So for that only we require this stdio.h. Okay, we will use a few more statements, but I'm showing you a very simple statement which is used inside stdio.h. So what printf has to do is written inside stdio.h. So if you want to use printf, then you have to include stdio.h. So you know what is library now, for what you are using a library. Okay, definitely this library is a standard default library, always you need to include in your file. Okay, fine. Now comes a main. What is a main? Main function is a default function that should be always present, because when I think in the previous video we saw about compiler. What is the usage of compiler? Usage of the compiler is to translate a natural language into a machine language. So you should translate this entire code into machine code, but where to start the translation? Your translation has to start from a particular point, right? That particular point is indicated by this main. Whenever you are writing the function called main, from this block only your translation will start. Your execution will start from this point only. Okay, so what is this int is called as? This is called as return type, or we will say int as a data type. That we will see later, but generally this is a function. And what is the main function? Main function is it is a starting point of a program. So compiler will always start from this point only. Fine. So what does this open curly braces and close curly braces is telling me? It is telling me that this function main called main is starting at this point and ending here. So whenever we open a function, we should close the function also. Okay, fine. So now inside this, what we are doing? We are printing a hello world, simple hello world. So let me save it, and let us first of all compile it and then execute. What is compilation? Compilation means translation. Why we need to translate? Because this is just English language. This English language is not understood by the machine, so you need to translate this English into a machine language. For that translation only, what we are doing the compilation process. So how to do the compilation process? We have something called a GCC, and you should name the corresponding program file that will be created. So what I told you in the previous video is that if you compile this code, what will happen? A new .exe file will be created. Inside the .exe file, the corresponding machine language code will be stored there. So you should name that machine language file. For example, I'm naming it as hello, and followed by which file you need to translate. You need to translate the file called hello world.c. You need to translate a file called hello world.c. So let me compile it. Yes, compilation successful. If compilation is successful, what will happen? A file called hello.exe file will be created. Now what I'm doing, I'm just executing that hello file. I'm just opening that hello file. So once I click on it, what will happen? That executable file will be sent to the CPU. It will be taken to the RAM. So it will be taken to the main memory, and it will be executed by the CPU, and the resultant answer will be sent to the output buffer, and output buffer will send it to the monitor, and it is displaying here called as hello world. So hope you understand the basic structure of a program. So now what is the next thing that we have to do is that we will be entering into data types. Okay, we need to enter into data types. So before entering into data types, I need to just tell you what is why is data type needed. Why data types? Okay, so that we will see now, and we will just continue the further session also, right? So the next thing we will start with is data types. Why we require data types? Actually, we require data types. For example, I told you yesterday itself. Okay, for example, in order to find average of certain numbers, what we'll do: 12, 30, 23, 34, 45, 56. For example, five numbers you are writing. If you want to find the average of these five numbers, then what you need to do, you need to add all these numbers, then finally you need to divide it by 5. So I told you that the average finding is a procedure. So what I told you, procedure means collection of instructions. So I told you this is a data, and a certain instruction has to be performed upon the data to find the average. So what I told you yesterday is you have certain data and you have instructions, and this instruction have to be performed upon the data in order to get the output. So what I will tell you is that separately data is independently, it is not going to be useful. Similarly, independently, instruction alone will not help us. Instruction as well as the data together is going to help us. Okay, so without data, I don't need to write any procedure. Without a data, there is no need of any procedure. So data is a very vital component of any programming language, as well as it is a vital part of program files itself. Fine. So now coming to data types. Data types can be divided, mainly it can be categorized into two. First main categorization is numeric data. The data can be numeric. The second basic kind of data, it can be either characters, can be called as characters, or I can say directly as alphabetic. Okay, either you can say characters or otherwise alphabetic. So coming to the very first categorization called as numeric, for example, we will see a price of the product. What is the price of the product? For example, if the price of the product is 12 rupees, then 12 is a numeric data. Then if you see the roll number of certain people, for example, let me consider that the roll number is like 25, for example. Okay, so if it is 25, then this is also called as a numeric data. For example, average of something. Okay, average of something, for example, if you find it is 15.35. So in the numeric data itself, you are able to see two different types. One is not having any decimal point, floating point. One thing is having a decimal point, partial, fractional unit. So numeric is itself divided into two parts. One is integer, the other type is going to be floating numbers. Okay, the other number is going to be floating numbers. So generally data type are classified into numeric and characters. And coming to numeric, in the numeric itself we are having two categorization. One is integer kind of data. Integer means no fractional, whole numbers. Coming to average, if you able to see here, this is a fractional number, partial number, decimal point is there, floating number is there, so it is called as floating numbers. Fine. So now let me come to characters. For example, coming to character, if you see, there is something called as door number. For example, if it is door number, what is a door number? Door number can be okay, before seeing door number, we will see a few other things. For example, name of the people. For example, name, for example, my name is Sachin, so let me take Sachin. Characters, alphabets, completely alphabets. So this is character, or we can say alphabetical data. And for example, some other data, if I want to take, I can take, for example, Manoj. So these names are actually character data, they are alphabetical data. And finally, I'll tell you something, door number. If you see the door number is a mixture of number as well as for example, 128-A. It is a collection of number as well as a character. What you can call it as alphanumerical characters. You can take it as a separate classification also, but what we are considering is it is also a characteristic data. It is also a characteristic data. Fine. So now the next thing that we are going to see is that data types are classified into numeric and character. Okay, fine. But it is classified inside C in a different way. So we will see that classification also. This is the general classification of data. We will see the classification of data types inside a programming language C. So data types in C, how it is classified. So we will see that. So there are three categorizations available. The first categorization is primitive data type. Primitive data type. What is the next data type? The second data type is a user defined data type. So we have primitive data type, we have user defined data type, and we have a derived data type. We have three kinds of data type. And now inside primitive data type, if you see, we are having two more subdivision inside this primitive data type. What is the first subdivision we are having? Integral. Integral means a single unit. Okay, single unit. And inside integral, what are coming under integral data type is integer and character data type. Integer and character data type. So inside this, what we are having? We are having integer and we are having character. Two data types as integral data types. Next, what is the next categorization under primitive data type is floating point, that we already see. What is floating point? Float. Float will come under float and double. There is one more data type called double. And both this data type will come under floating point. See here, integral means it is going to be integer. I'll write the keyword itself. Int is a keyword. Character, small c. Okay, character. And now coming to floating point, we have two kinds of floating point available. One is float, keyword called float, and the other one is a keyword called double. What is double? Float and double are same, but the range is actually different. The range is actually quite large. Float is a little smaller, double is a little larger one. And now after this, so this is what inside a primitive. So now if I just come to user defined, data type, then we have three user defined data type. One is enum, enumerators, enum, and the next one is structure. 2.3, the next one is union. So enumerator, structure, union, all these three are called as user defined data type. These are called as user defined data type. Then coming to derived data type. Then we are having two derived data type. First one is array, and the next derived data type is actually pointer. So if you see the classification of data types in C, we are having three classification: primitive data type, user defined data type, derived data type. Inside primitive data type, we are having two classification: integral and floating point. Inside integral, your integer and character data type is coming. Under floating point, float and double takes place. And the second categorization is user defined, inside which we are having enumerator, enum, structure, and union. And the last categorization is derived data type, and we are having array and pointer inside this derived data type. And we will see each and every data type in detail in the upcoming lectures. Each and every lecture we will be seeing all these things. Okay, so hope you get a knowledge on the classification of how data types are classified.